Hello, and welcome to Clutter Clearing as a Spiritual Quest. My name is Felicia Messina-D'Haiti, and I am a Feng Shui and Soul Coach teacher and trainer. And I am also recently have become a clutter clearing coach trainer. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But tonight, I would like to dive in to what is clutter, what clutter can tell you about yourself, and what your home is telling you about yourself, and how clutter relates to being on a spiritual quest. So, again, welcome. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I got started in feng shui and clutter clearing. So, about 17 years ago, I was at a women's retreat, and the retreat host had us do an exercise where we made a list of all the things that we like to do, all the things that we're interested in. And I had things on there like art history, interior design, color, psychology, um, yoga, numerology, photography, and a bunch of other things. And I was like, this is a lot of different things, and I did not think that they were related to each other. And so the retreat host suggested that we start doing research and Google searches, internet searches on, how these things might be related. And so I did that. And as I did that, and, different combinations of things, like I didn't even know what feng shui was at the time. Um, and this one school of feng shui called the School of Interior Alignment, which is founded by Denise Lin, kept coming up in my searches. And I'm like, what is this like feng shui thing? So I hired someone to do a feng shui consultation at my house. And it was a team, two women who came over. And as they were going through the house, they were making comments like, oh, you've already made adjustments here, you've already made adjustments there. And they started asking me, like, had I studied feng shui before? And I was like, no. um, and so they made a couple more adjustments. And there was one thing they told me to, in the abundance corner, which is the back left of the house, they told me to make some changes there. And then there outside that area of the house, there was a tree that had died, but we had not cut it down or anything yet. And so they recommended that we get rid of, take down the tree and make some changes in that area. And that will change the energy around abundance for us. So I did that. And like 2 or 3 days later, I got a call for a job interview for a job that I had applied for like months and months before that I had almost even forgotten about. But that change did bring abundance and more abundance into our household. And so I was just like, oh, this stuff really works. And so I did more research, and then I ended up studying interior alignment, feng shui, and space clearing. And that opened the door to other things like soul coaching and oracle cards and clutter clearing. And what I really love about all of those studies is looking at how our personal, how our own energy is in relationship with the energy of everything around us, and how we can make changes in our environment that support changes that we desire in our life. And so I also made the connection with clutter because every single thing that I studied had an element of clutter clearing and shifting the energy and using clutter clearing as a way to, clear out that debris or that stuck energy in your life to open yourself up to new things. So it's one of my favorite things to talk about. And so I'm glad that I'm able to talk to you about it tonight. So let's start with like, what is clutter? So if you look in the Merriam-Webster dictionary for under the definition of clutter, you'll see things like it's to fill or cover with scattered or disordered things. A lot of disorder is talked about, um, reducing effectiveness, a large amount of things that are not arranged in a neat or orderly way, a crowded or confused mass, and it comes from the Middle English, which is to clot. So when you think about clutter, clutter is anything that clogs the energy in your life, that blocks your energy. And that's your internal energy. It's not just the energy in your home, it's your internal energy. And so a lot of times people don't make the connection between, what's going on outside and what's going on internally. Your home is a direct reflection of what's going on in your mind and what's going on in your emotions. That's like all of you, when your energy is being projected out to create an environment that mirrors what's going on inside. So if you are feeling lack of clarity or um, lack of motivation, or just kind of like constricted in any way, take a look around your house and see like what's going on with your stuff. Um, we also use clutter to as a form of protection. So like if, a lot of crazy things, things that we judge as crazy, are going on in our lives or in the world around us, we tend to bring that back into our space instead of creating a space that is more intentional and more of what we want. So there are four types of clutter. Well, four categories, I say: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And what we tend to think about first is the physical clutter. That's the stuff like that we see in our space. And it's the stuff that all physical clutter is a manifestation of mental, emotional, or spiritual clutter. And so we may have a mindset that we are not abundant, or that the universe will not provide for us. So we might want to hold on to things that we get because we're not sure if we're going to get what we need when we need it. There are other times when holding on to clutter is kind of, we're not confident about where we're moving in our future. So we're holding on to like the great days of the past. So there are a lot of different reasons why we might hold on to clutter and why these things might manifest in our spaces. And when you look at like the clutter that's in your space, there's, there are lots of different ways that could impact us. So if you think about, I have some questions for you to think about in looking at how clutter can impact your life. And one is like, how much time do you spend buying replacements and then finding out like you already have the thing that you just went out and bought? Do you tend to, or do you have experiences where you drop, damage, or break things that are in the way just because there's like too much stuff like out on the counters? Do you miss deadlines? That could be, mental clutter, or your calendar being too full. Or like, do you have a to-do list that is, a page long, and then every day you're adding 10 things, but you only take off 5. And you just got this like more and more and more to do. All of that stuff weighs on us. It blocks our energy, and it causes stagnation. And it can be very overwhelming if you think like you have all these things to do and all this stuff is in the way. And it's just not, there's so many things in the way that you can't live your life's purpose, or you can't enjoy and live intentionally because you're dealing with all this other stuff. Um, do you have a storage space that you really don't use? You just have, you're paying rent for your stuff to stay someplace else. And it's stuff like, how often do you go there? How often do you use this stuff? Or are you just like putting money out every month to keep this stuff in storage? A lot of times with increased things in our spaces, there's an increase in dust, mold, or other allergens that are hidden in the clutter. Um, and how much time do you spend looking for things or redoing things because you can't find or things? And this includes on your computer. So if you have like 50,000 files and you can't find your homework or something else that you were supposed to do, a paper, maybe there's too much clutter there. And clutter can impact your space, your thoughts, your emotions, your passions. And if you think about your life and the energy in your life as being so if you get the image of a sink and the sink is full of water, and you might take a cup and like scoop some of the water out, the rest of the water will just fill up the space. So it looks like you didn't even take any water out. A lot of times clutter is like that. So we think we got rid of a little bit, but then there's other stuff there and it just kind of like explodes and fills the space. So if you ever, decide like, I'm going to clutter clear, and you clutter clear, and like the next day or even, a week or a month later, you look at the space and you're like, why is the space still full of clutter? There could be a lot of reasons for that. But one thing that I'll recommend later is a process to clear your clutter, to kind of get rid of it for good and shift the energy. So in relating, I'm going to shift just a little bit. So in relating to clutter clearing as a spiritual quest, let's look at just briefly the definition, or just like the words spiritual quest. So a quest is a journey made in search of something. You're looking for something. And spiritual relates to your spirit. So when we think about a spiritual quest, we are looking for the essence, our own essence, to come forward. We looking to be authentic. We're looking to listen to the truth from our soul. And so clutter clearing can help to serve as a catalyst to help us uncover the answers in order to reach our highest potential. So when you clear the clutter in your home and it magically returns, it is likely because you have not set an intention about what you want your space to mirror or to support you with. So before you start clutter clearing, really you want your life to look like and what you want your life to feel like. So you need to start with, an anchor starting point. Take a look at, reflect on, how do you see yourself today? And then where do you see yourself in like 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, like however far ahead you want to create this vision. And then you want to create a vision for your future. And when you do that, you want to, you might not be clear on exactly what it is you want to be doing, or specifics, but I want you to focus in on what emotions do you want to experience. So do you want to experience more joy in your life, more love in your life, more creativity, more peace, just take a look at, what, pull out like 3 or 4 emotions that you really want to hone in on and develop in your life. And so when you are clutter clearing, you can focus on, with each object, does this object bring me closer to living a life of joy or living a life of peace? Or does this object, bring, evoke emotions of love? So think about, what do the objects that you have invited into your space mirror back to you what you want to experience in life? And so the first thing, when you get clear, you'll set an intention and then you'll choose a space to start. So when looking at feng shui in your spaces, I always recommend when you're clutter clearing, start with the entrance to your home, because that is where like energy enters your home, and you're welcoming fresh new energy in. So you don't want that area to be clogged or blocked. You don't want to block the energy from coming into your space. The next space I recommend you work on is your bedroom, because that space represents your most intimate self, so your inner self. And when your bedroom is free of clutter and arranged in a way that the energy can flow smoothly and you can get good rest in there and you can feel rejuvenated, and it's the ultimate self-care place, the bedroom and the bathroom. So work on those areas first, and then move out to the kitchen and other areas in your space. And when you look at feel into like, do different objects in your spaces bring your energy up or do they bring your energy down? One exercise, there are a couple of different ways that you could do this. So you can choose which way sounds more fun to you. One way to kind of go through your spaces is to pretend you're going on a window shopping trip. And so you'll come outside your house, kind of ground yourself, take a couple breaths, calm, make sure you're nice and calm. And then just take a walk through your house as if you are on a shopping trip. Look around at things that catch your eye and ask yourself, do these objects represent who I am today? And do they represent who I am becoming? And if not, it might be something to consider releasing. Another thing you could do is pretend you're walking through somebody else's house, or you're at an open house or something where you're walking through the house, and just look around at the different objects and see like, what stories do these objects tell about the person who lives here? Like if you were a stranger walking through your own house, what would the objects, the pictures, everything in the space tell you about the person who lives there? So those are a couple of things you could do. You could also, you could physically walk through the spaces. You could also do a meditation and kind of walk yourself, visualize the different spaces in your home and see, how you feel in the different spaces and if there's, anything that like needs to go. So generally, the first round of clutter clearing would be to get rid of, or to usually say to release, and I'll tell you why in a second, to release things that are broken, things that you do not use, things that you do not love, and things that just generally like you look at them and either bad memories come up or it brings your energy down or it's just kind of like, ugh. Those are things to release first. And so releasing. When I talk about releasing things, it's so nature will always fill a vacuum. So if we go back to the imagery of the sink that's full and you like take out a cup of water and the rest of the water in the sink will like fill up the area of the water that you just took out. Clutter is like that too, in the sense that when you take it out and remove it, you need to replace it with something. So a lot of times when we clutter clear without intention, we're just moving stuff out. And then because we don't have an intention, more stuff just comes back in to replace it. So that's why it's very important to have an intention when you're clutter clearing. So if your intention is to bring more peace into your life or bring more joy into your life, as you're clutter clearing, keep that in mind and just you can create an affirmation or just, say to yourself, I am clearing my space to bring in more joy. I am bringing more joy into my space by clearing out these things that are not joyful. So bringing in energy to replace the energy that you are releasing. And a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, sometimes, we can feel resistance to clutter clearing. There's always that one area or that one category of stuff that's just like, oh, I really can't get rid of that. Think about what is that for you? And what does that tell you about yourself? And is it that you don't feel like the universe supports you? Is it that you're holding on to something in the past? And it could be something, it could be, different things, but it could be holding on to something that is like you have created an image of your past that it was so beautiful that you can't have that again in the future. Or you can have the opposite, where there were things in your past that you just want to forget about, but you keep reminding yourself of these things by bringing in different things in the house. So look at where there's resistance and see what can you do to release the resistance. So when releasing things, we always want to express gratitude for what we are releasing. So whatever you've invited into your home, and I say that intentionally because we invite things into our space, whether we're conscious of it or not, like we have brought stuff in our home, like it doesn't get there, any other way. We or someone else in our house has brought it in. So we've invited these things into our home for a reason. So honor that reason, express gratitude for what it has given you during the time it is there, and then be ready to release it. There is, so a lot of times our identity is wrapped up in our stuff. And the thought of letting go can bring fear and uncertainty because you've been in, the stuff has been with you for a certain amount of time. And it's like, well, what's going to happen when I release it? And our stuff can make us feel safe. It can make us feel protected. But really, and it could also bring up like, oh, if I peel back all these layers that I've, brought in around me, am I really going to expose myself? Like, what's going to happen when I show my authentic self to the world? And that can be kind of scary. So just think about, so if any of these things come up while you're clutter clearing, just take some time to journal about your feelings, journal about, the things that you're holding on to, the areas of resistance, because we all want to, on this spiritual quest, we want to find out the root of this resistance so that we can clear it out, clear it off, and move forward and create greater flow in our lives. So, in Feng Shui, we want the energy to flow in our homes. Feng Shui is all about creating spaces in your life and in your home where the energy is flowing, where nothing is stagnant, where you can accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, where your dreams can flourish. And we do that by helping the energy to continue to flow and bringing in new, fresh energy to support our dreams and goals. And so, one thing that we really need to embrace with clutter clearing is trust. And so, trusting the universe, trusting ourselves, trusting God, bringing in, we will be okay if we don't have all our stuff. Of course, we need things to live, but the extra stuff, we don't, a lot of times it's great to have, but if it's stuff that we're not using or stuff that's kind of just like sitting around blocking our flow, like, do we really need that? Like, how much better would our lives be if we just released it, trusted the universe, and went with the flow of life? So, one other thing I want to encourage you to look at is, I call it what's in your visual field. So, everything in your environment, the objects, the colors, the textures, everything has an impact on you. Everything has its own vibration. Like, even when the lights are out, everything around, all matter vibrates. Colors have a vibration, sound has a vibration, everything does. So we have our own vibration. So in our spaces, we want to look at kind of the whole of the space to see, like, how is this, impacting me? And a lot of times, we've had stuff in our space for so long that it just kind of blends into the background and we don't even pay attention to, we don't even know it's there really anymore because it's been there for so long. So one thing you can do, in addition to like taking these like tours around the house and visualizing different things, is to take a photograph of your room and look at the photograph instead of like looking around the space. And I guarantee you will see something in that photograph that you had forgotten about, or you don't notice in the space, or you don't even like, is just invisible. So that's one thing you can do too, to kind of see your spaces in a different way. So once you are ready to begin this quest, again, make sure that you get clear on your intentions and goals, that you think about, how do I want my space to look? How do I want my space to feel? How do I want to feel in my spaces? And also, what new opportunities do I want to welcome into my life? And so this is all, setting your intention. And then with clutter clearing, I recommend that you slow and steady wins the race. So I recommend that you take a little bit at a time, especially if you have a lot to go through. 5-10 minutes a day of shifting things in your space will start the movement of energy and start the shifting of the energy. I don't recommend doing like your whole house in a day, because it's, again, like our energy is interacting with the energy in our space. And if you move too much too fast, it can kind of put you off balance and you'll need time to adjust. So slow and steady is better. And just be open to the adventure of what's coming when you start releasing things, and what new opportunities will be coming into your life once you release the things that are like um, clogging the energy or blocking the energy. So take it in baby steps and have fun with it. One thing also is, do not judge yourself for, like, especially if you have a lot of clutter. um, don't judge it. It is what it is. It's there, and you're taking steps to release it. You're taking steps to uncover new adventures in your life and new parts of yourself. And it's really not a time for judgment. But if you do find yourself making a lot of like self uh, judgmental statements and things like that, criticizing yourself, that would be clutter to release. So taking that and doing some journaling around forgiving yourself for judging yourself, because that is another form of clutter. So getting rid of the physical stuff that's blocking our way, getting rid of releasing old beliefs, releasing self-judgment, releasing criticism, releasing just filling up our schedules too much and doing things that really don't bring us joy, doing things out of pure obligation and nothing else without a joyful heart. All of that is clutter. Clutter can be, old beliefs, old mindset things. So just like when you're clearing the physical stuff, just pay attention to what other stuff is coming up for you at that time. Make a note of it. You might want to carry a little, like either a voice memo thing on your phone or a notebook or something around with you as you are clutter clearing, so you can make note of these things when they pop up. So I think that's the major stuff here with the clutter clearing as a spiritual quest. And just really, clutter clearing is magical. Once you start clutter clearing and your spaces feel different, you can sense emotional changes, mindset shifts, everything starts to open up and become clear. So it brings a lot of clarity to your life. And so I thank you for allowing me to talk to you tonight. If you want to keep in touch and sign up on my newsletter, I have a free gift that you can sign up for at my website, which is on the banner at FeliciaD'Haiti.com, Abundance Gift Set. It is how to align your space with abundance. There's a meditation and a PDF there for you. I send out about monthly newsletters. I don't want to clog or clutter up your inbox. And so I would love to keep in touch. If you have any questions, you can just pop them in the comments and I will comment back, or you could email me, contact me from my website. And I look forward to hearing from you. And I will be offering some feng shui and clutter clearing classes coming up in the next year. And again, thank you very much for coming tonight. And it was my honor and joy to be here. Thank you and have a great night.